Well, my name is Ailsa, and I went to various schools in the Mary Valley. But I lived at Upper Kandanga for about 4.5 years, I suppose, and then we moved to Kandanga, and I started school at Kandanga School. Well, at grade 3 or thereabouts, at that time, we'd moved to Goomong, and for a little while we used to go to the school 3 days a week with the cream carrier. Just 3 days a week. That was Stan and I. The other older brother and sister, they had push bikes to ride to school, but we had to walk, of course. Dad couldn't afford to buy bikes for everybody, and anyway we were too small to ride them. And we went to school on this cream van. In the back of the cream van with all the cream and all the groceries and things that the driver used to have. We were never in the front. And we carried on there for going to school for a short time. When you're a kid, you don't think of those things. But eventually, after Dad had tried to get a bus or some sort of conveyance to take kids to school, no, there wasn't enough children there in that particular place to do that. So we just had to have correspondence lessons, which is useless anyway, unless you've got somebody to teach you, which kind of, when your mother's got other kids to see to and all her jobs that she's got to do, to go and teach kids schoolwork, well, yeah. But anyway, it was great playtime. But anyway, we went from there, from Goomong then, we went to Dagan, and we were on a farm down there for a short time. Must have been a couple of years. Well, first of all, Dad was a bullock when he was young, but he sold them, and he used to fall timber and bring the timber into the sawmill, but just up Kandanga at that time. Dairying. Yeah, dairying. When we were in Kandanga, we went to dairying. And when we were at Goomong, we were in dairying. When we went to Dagan, we were in dairying and small crops. And when we then we moved from Dagan then to near Amamung, and we had a dairy farm there, a big dairy farm there. And we were there until I got married. My grandparents were selectors out there. I was in there till I was 19 years of age. That's when I got married and moved to Pomona. There's a lot of change in the Mary Valley. Years ago there was, nearly everybody had dairy farms. There was a lot of dairy farms. But there was also pineapples and bananas and beans and things like that. And that's all gone. Well, when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of social life, but there was dancing. We used to go dancing. And there was a picture theatre in Kandanga, we used to go there. Well, Dad used to take us in his little whippet trucks that he had. Weren't silent pictures, they had the sounds. I helped out on the farm mostly. A lot of work to be done. Yeah. Yes, lots of digging potatoes and carrots we used to grow and things like that. Yeah. Pumpkins to pick and store in the barn for the... I went to school on the rattler, as we called it. Well, our rattler was the rail motor. I went to school. We used to catch the rail motor from the level crossing that was just down below the house. And we used to go down there and wait for the rattler to come, and they'd stop there and pick us up and take us to school, down to Dagon School. Coming home in the afternoon, we'd hop on the rattler again and they put us off there again. But we weren't the only ones. There was heaps of... They used to stop in a lot of places to pick up the kids and take them to the next school. And yeah, just down below the house. That's Hutchins Road. There wasn't a lot of kids on it, but there was a lot of adults on it. Into town, yes. On a Friday, they used to have a third carriage they used to put on the rattler because there was too many not enough seats for the ones that used to go on it. I used to go on the rattler to town when I learned sewing. So I learned dressmaking when I was. Yeah, that's how I used to get in there. And I'd walk from the station then down to the School of Arts and then back again to the station. Oh yes, I learned quite a bit there, yeah. Well, I'd do my knitting as I went into town. I knitted a whole dress that way, a short sleeve. No, I hardly wore it, actually, but anyway, I knitted it. Well, I didn't even go to high school. It was 7 then, it didn't go to 8. Well, we couldn't afford to send kids to high school because to send kids to high school, they had to come in on the rail motor on Monday morning and they'd be late for school, of course, when they got in there because they'd had to walk from the station to the high school. And then to come home, you had to board somewhere because otherwise you miss half your lessons. Well, myself, I very seldom went to Gympie other than going into my dressmaking, but we didn't go to town very much. And we used to, Mum and Dad, they used to get their groceries from Queensland Pastoral Supplies. They used to come on a train from Brisbane and they used to order their big order and it would come in a big crate. Every so often, I don't know how often, but anyway. Well, we grew our own. And we had our own chooks and everything, milk, butter, cream. We came back to Glenwood, and then we retired in Gympie. There was none of my brothers or sisters. They all, well, actually, Gay, my elder sister, she lived in Ammermoor for until she died about 9 years ago, I think. I was Traviston, dear. Oh, I was against it. I'm glad it stayed like it did. It would have been dry now. It didn't make sense at all. Covered too much ground. Lovely ground, actually. Yes. Siblings, mostly. Yeah, we didn't, other than when we went dancing, of course, we danced, well, knew a lot of people when we danced. That was a social thing when I was a kid. Oh, yes. It was a wonderful thing, that one. Never came to the Gympie show until I was an adult, actually. To leave our place and go to Taunton was quite a drive, I can tell you, in those days. Nowadays, nothing, because our little ute didn't travel very fast. There was plenty of gravel. It was all gravel. I can remember when it was dirt coming up Mount Pleasant. The first bridge that was ever put over at Traviston Crossing there, That bridge was put over by the residents around there, put in their money to get that bridge put across there. It was a timber bridge and it wasn't very far off the water either. Not a lot, because the flood didn't take long to go over the top. But it was a long trip to go to say from where we were in the Mary Valley there through to Taunton for the day. That was a long trip. Yeah, well, you had to go out over Touchy Bridge and go down all that way. Not like you do today, just whiz down the highway. Either that or you could come through Gympie and go down the so-called highway that was there then. The boys went swimming in Kandanga Creek, and the head teacher, he used to take them swimming. Well, the lady teacher that was there took the girls swimming, but we weren't allowed to go swimming, us girls. But it was just a hole, down the creek. It was no swimming pool or nothing like that. It was just down the creek. I remember it going in, but I couldn't even tell you how old I was. Yes, well, I was at Dagan School when the war was on, and we had the trenches dug, and they were in an L shape. And half the school was always said, if the alarm goes off, you have to, half goes in that one and half goes in this other one, because you don't put them in a line, because the planes come through and they... We were never sort of scared or anything about it, but we knew all the planes that flew over. We knew all the names of them and everything. We had army ones that used to do their practice and things when we lived in Dagan itself. They used to come into the paddocks there and do some of their manoeuvres and things like that. But we didn't take any notice. And a lot of people had the Italian prisoners of war were there working on the farms. Land Army girls were on the farms.